This is the Housemade Podcast. We're your hosts, John Vieira and Nick Bobbin. We're here to cover your questions about home bartending, so let's get into it.
Hey, welcome back, guys, to Housemade Podcast. This is episode number 7. Today we're going to be learning about vodka, teaching you about some vodka, and blind taste testing 4 different vodkas that everybody debates on.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. We've talked before about the time,
There was
2 years
one
ago
time
when we
that
actually
we did this, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a long time. I think it's just going to be a really good recap for me personally, and I'm hoping to learn a little bit about some of the differences between these as well, because you think of vodka, you think, all right, it's vodka.
Totally.
But there's a lot of difference, apparently.
Well, I don't know. There's not a whole bunch of difference. So what I did first was start by looking up the United States law that, or I think I don't remember exactly where it was. It was a bunch of numbers. And it is, what is vodka? Like, what is vodka? So essentially, what the United States says, which differs a little bit from the European Union, but since we live in America, it has to essentially be a neutral spirit that's distilled up to 95% alcohol by volume, so it's ethanol, and then cut with water and bottled at 40% alcohol by volume. That's the gist. To be labeled vodka, it can never be rested in wood at any point unless it's in paraffin-lined barrels for the bottle and bond process, which is a different subject altogether. But I thought was really interesting is they would allow you to add up to 2 grams per liter of sugar,
Which is
kind of a lot.
That's kind of a shit ton.
And up to 1 gram per liter of citric acid. So that's how they're making the Citron vodkas.
Right, which makes sense because you look at like what's on the shelf and everything is, this has real fruit juice and this and that, and it's like, but it's in many cases at least it's still 40% alcohol.
Totally.
And so you're like, how the fuck? But also some of the Absolute Juice ones that come out recently, they are not, I think they're like 35% alcohol or something. They're slightly less.
It'd be interesting to see if they're still labeled as vodka. I haven't looked at those labels.
I think they are.
They are? Okay. They said that the EU allows you to go down to like 37.6% and still be called vodka.
Oh, maybe they're riding the line then.
And they could be. And I looked at like Cornell law, so it could have looked at an outdated code too.
I mean, I'm sure it's
pretty similar. Pretty much the gist is it's, I think it even said up to 2 grains. So it's 2 grains distilled to ethanol and then cut with water, bottled at 40%. That's essentially a vodka. So we went through these ones. So we're going to kind of blind taste test. Well, not gonna kind of. We are gonna blind taste test Seagram's, Grey Goose, Tito's, and Absolute today.
Yeah, let's start by just doing. We'll run through this lineup, give it a little sip, acclimate the palate. We're not gonna try to guess what these are. We're just going to see if we like them.
Stuff. Yeah.
Taste them. See what the texture's like. See what the flavor's like. And then maybe we'll learn a little bit about each one of these.
Yeah, let's
and then we'll taste some more.
Okay, so for everybody that's listening at home, we have all 4 of these glasses lined up with
not in order.
Not in order. We don't know we poured them all, poured them, mixed them up, covered the bottom piece of tape up that has a name on it so we can't see it, and then numbered all the glasses after we'd mixed them. So we're going to talk about glass 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we're not quite sure what they are.
We have no idea, and at the end we can also rank them.
Yeah, we'll rank them
using
best
the
to
numbers.
worst for our palate, I guess.
Yeah.
So first off, okay, so let's try number 1.
Okay.
And let's also talk, since, mind you, these don't correlate, but I have a little bit of how each spirit is made, so I want to talk about it too. So let's start by talking about Tito's. So first off, with this number 1 glass, I would like to note how it has a good amount of leg to it.
Yeah.
actually. So legs are when you swirl it around the glass, and that little runs that come down off wherever the wash line was. It usually indicates oil content.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Pretty oily. Let's yeah, smells like vodka.
Smells like vodka.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the.
Yep. It smells like ethanol is what it smells like,
Yeah.
because everything
It's
was stripped,
ethanol and
bringing it
water.
up to 95%. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Number one, pretty mellow. It is oily. It's got a good
It's got a nice texture. It's almost got like a sweetness to it.
It does. Well, as we know, we can have up to 2 grams worth of sugar. No one's gonna fucking admit to that.
That's interesting though, because that makes sense for products that are marketed in such a way.
Mm-hmm.
But for just straight up, all 4 of these are just straight up, no flavor. I've never
Notice them to be sweet,
yeah,
right?
I don't. I think in all the times that I've had vodka, it's not been like a controlled environment, and
Yeah.
so like I don't think I would notice the sweet. But that is what I would consider pretty sweet.
I would too, and
I just had a drink of water, and it's like it's actually really smooth.
yeah, it's not bitey whatsoever. That one.
Interesting.
Number one. Number one was okay.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay, so for the point of what we're doing, we're essentially, I think, talking more or less only about 2 grains. So Tito's claims that they make their product with 100% corn.
Yeah. So gluten free.
Gluten-free. Okay, so, I mean, technically when you distilled it ethanol, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's fucking gluten-free anyways.
Oh, I have no doubt. I just mean as far as market. If something is literally ethanol,
I don't think there's gluten left in it.
It's nothing else.
Technically,
Yeah.
I guess the argument would be there's still 5% impurities in it.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
I would have to look up. I heard that the FDA changed.
I would if
anyways,
you're one of those people.
that's a
I would
debate
just
for a different day.
I would just go off of like the taste and the brand that you like. If that happens to be Tito's, that's great. Don't do it just because you're worried that the gluten in it's going to attack you, because you're talking about like trace amounts,
Yep.
if any.
Okay, so Tito's 100% corn. They use a pot still, which I thought was interesting. They're the only brand that we have up here that's pot stilled. Everything else is column stilled.
Really?
So
Okay.
pot stills, for you guys listening at home, is closer to like how whiskey's made.
Right.
Also
6 times
tequilas.
distilled.
So they 6 times distill it.
That's a lot of times.
So, and usually on most of these processes, it's the second to third distillation will actually bring it up to proof. So on the second or third distillation, you'll hit 95%. It's the extra times distilled is where a lot of these vodka brands go like, oh, it makes it smoother each time you distill
more
it.
pure stuff like that.
Which is crazy because you're talking about taking 95% and making 95%. I think the highest you can go is like 97.5, like chemistry based.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really go any higher than where you went, anyways.
Well,
So I'm also not a distiller. So maybe it does have something to do with it. Now they are cutting their distillate with limestone artisan well water out of Austin, Texas. So that is going to be one of the only things that gives it a lot of its flavor.
okay.
So, I mean,
Limestone artisan well water.
yeah, which is very similar terminology that you hear to the whiskey guys.
So with limestone, what kind of flavor are we talking about? Does it impart any? Obviously, there's a mineral flavor, but what specifically are those flavors? Do we know?
Man, I don't know. So it would be interesting to go lick a limestone rock and just kind of see.
I'm picturing like salty. When I think of mineral stuff, I think of which obviously,
salinity.
To a certain degree, that can't necessarily be true. But that's just where my brain goes.
Well, just think about well water. Everybody here, at least in Idaho, has had well water. Somebody you know has been on a well.
Yeah. Well
And
water's good.
And it is. It has this like property to
Well,
it.
and,
And it has some body to it as well.
Yeah, so when you get those fancy reverse osmosis waters and all that stuff at the grocery store,
That's just stripped. There's nothing left.
they're stripped, and a lot of times it's alienating how little mineral content is in there. And in some cases, the drinking water is the same as the manufacturer's distilled water, but then they add the minerals back in
to it. Yep.
for taste.
100%. And so that's what I found with all of these brands. It's their, well, aside from one, it's all about the grain and the water, because that's all that's in there.
Yeah.
So those two parts.
Okay.
It's not aged. There's nothing crazy about it. It's very controlled.
So once again, to clarify, glass one, we don't know what it is, but it's not necessarily Tito's. We're just speaking about these out of order. So next up, we'll be talking about Absolute, which comes from.
Okay, hold on. Let me try this.
Is that what you said?
Yes, Sweden.
Okay. AHUS is the name of the place.
We tried to pronounce it and we weren't even going to attempt.
Sound like I was.
We're not
almost
Swedish.
Sneezing. Okay, so it comes from Sweden. Okay, so glass two.
So glass
whichever one this is,
is hotter on the nose.
Hotter on the nose. What are the legs doing? How's it look?
Yeah, what's the? Almost no legs.
Almost nothing. Okay.
It's got a little tiny bit, but the like oil content was nothing like glass.
Not even close.
And even glass one's broke now. All the legs have broke.
Yep. Yeah, I can see it. It looks messy. So hotter on the nose. Any of that sweetness?
There's still a weird sweetness to it, but way less.
This one smells terrible. It still smells like ethanol, but it also smells like almost
like rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, it's got something nasty going on.
It's harsh. Yeah.
Ugh.
It is harsh.
Whatever that is, I don't like.
It has a little bit of that same alcohol flavor bite to it in the back.
Legs are there now, though.
Yeah, they are coming in, yeah.
That's interesting.
I can feel that one a lot more in my chest, too. It didn't go down as easy.
Nowhere near as sweet.
No, it's not as sweet at all.
In fact, almost
bitey.
Almost a little bit more of the salinity. Mm-hmm. You definitely feel it going down.
Uh-huh.
You feel it going all the way down.
And the aftertaste kind of lingers in your mouth.
Kind of front of the palate.
Very ethanol-y.
I'm actually, after the fact, I'm getting a little sweetness.
Yeah.
It didn't taste nearly as sweet as that one at first.
It's not as sweet at front.
But it didn't dissipate. It's actually even more prominent now. So it's building. Interesting. Let's see how long it takes the legs to break on that one.
I think they already started. Anyways, okay, so then talking in our next one, Absolute, it's from Sweden. This one is made with winter wheat. So apparently this is a grain that you plant in the fall. You allow it to grow pretty much through the winter under the snow, through next spring and summer, and harvest it the next fall. So it's a full year crop rotation, which is weird from everything else that's planted in spring, harvested in fall. Grey Goose happens to use the same thing, and their marketing material was all about how that winter wheat was superior bread-making wheat to begin with.
Yeah.
Absolute.
Well, Grey Goose being from France.
Grey Goose is from France, yes.
So France can be a little hoity-toity, but they're also kind of like the undisputed kings in a lot of
Spirit industries, yeah.
Spirit industries, culinary industries. I mean,
that's true.
They know what's going on.
So, but for Absolute, they're claiming that they were some of the first ones to invent the continuous still, which is a process that you make ethanol. So instead of distilling it and then emptying and re-putting your distillate and starting over, your distillate feeds right back into the base of your still, and it just continuously runs until you hit your alcohol percentage that you want.
Okay.
So it's hard to say how many times they would have distilled it or what their distillation run is, but they market it as, it's 1,000 times distilled because it's continuous. It's up to infinite.
Right. Okay.
Anyways, and that's a column still. So that's a big, industrial style.
I don't know
how
ostentatious Swedish people are. I like to think of them as being very nice, generous people.
No,
I love their
absolutely.
meatballs. Is IKEA Swedish, or are they?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
If that's not correct, don't judge me.
Don't judge us. We do
for
live
some
in Idaho.
So the reason why my brain associates that is because they have fantastic meatballs in IKEA, and so
That's true.
I don't know if
That they are Swedish
meatballs.
meatballs. They do market them like that.
So maybe it is. Anyway, okay. So that's absolute.
Okay.
Let's jump into the next glass and then talk about how fucking similar Grey Goose is on paper.
On
at
paper
least.
to absolute. Okay. So number 3, let's see. Number 3's legs. Okay, so
Seemingly nothing, but
I mean literally nothing when you look at it.
but look, you can.
I mean, there's a
You can see 'em
little
starting to-
bit start, yeah. But like this side, for example, there's nothing going on with it at all. Let's see. Man,
Okay.
okay, the smell is a little bit different.
For those of you not watching this, he was smelling between glass 2 and glass 3.
I'm just everything. It's so similar that I'm trying to get a baseline for it, you know, because we're talking about
Well, I mean, the differences between 1 and 2 were
pretty dramatic.
pretty dramatic.
And taste-wise,
So is
yeah.
this one a little bit more in line with number 2 or number 1?
This is nose is way more in line with number 2, I think.
Okay. So kind of that rubbing alcohol, medicinal,
Mm-hmm.
ethanol, nothing pleasant, which we don't really expect anything pleasant from any of these.
Still get some of that sweetness. I got a lot of that. Oh, look, all the legs broke already.
Okay.
I got a lot of that nose burn almost.
This one, to me, unless I'm just desensitized to it now, has way less nose burn than number 2. Like, way less. But maybe I just fried my face already.
Man, I don't. Trying to pick out a difference. I think that one's sweeter to me. I think that one's closer in taste to like number 1.
Yep. It has that devious vodka sweetness that I never expected and didn't know existed. This one smells like a lighter version of number 2, but tastes
Like number 1.
very similar to number 1,
Yep.
I think.
I think you're on the right track. I think we're on the right track.
This is a very different activity than tasting whiskey like I learned to do last time. This is
What does this taste like? Sugar and wheat. How much of each? A little bit. I don't know. It's not like I'm associating blueberries and blackberries and fucking rich,
right.
dark
There's
caramel colors.
There's
and
almost
age
nothing to
and-
go on, which is kind of why it's such a great comparison. Because just to mention here, for any of you that are not familiar, there's quite a price difference between these. So
Super price, which we'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah, each of these is a liter, mind you. So when these prices come into play, we're talking straight up across the board, price per ounce being
dramatically different.
dramatically different. So I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Okay, so Grey Goose and Absolute are the literal exact same thing on paper. The difference is your location. So still winter wheat, but it comes out of France. Still spring water, but it's coming out of France. Still continuous column distilled, it's just out of France. So we're talking about the two products making or claiming to make almost the same thing, just different regions.
Right. We have talked about this before, though, where actually the last episode specifically, just because somebody has a recipe to something doesn't mean they're going to make it as well or know how to make it the same way.
True.
So there is variance that comes in with that. Not saying one's necessarily better than the other, but the recipe could potentially be different, right?
That's
true. Yeah, I'm really curious to see which one is which and if I thought they were like similar at all.
All right, so now on to number 4.
Glass number 4, okay.
I don't know if I'm desensitized to it, but I'm not getting any nose.
We might just be fried at this point.
We might be fried.
What about the legs?
Let's see, legs. I mean, they're starting, but it's almost nothing too.
Okay,
Definitely
since
number one was
number
the
one
leggiest, for
was
sure.
the leggiest.
Yeah, because this one's just instantly.
Yeah, and
everything else kind of
so they still broke.
starts.
But that one was
Definitely the oiliest.
Okay.
Yeah, this one I'm starting to get a little bit more now, but okay. I still get some of that sweetness. It's a classic fucking alcohol. But yeah, it's man, when you're so similar, it's really hard to pull out any new information.
Yeah.
It's hard for my brain.
Yeah, I need to take a fat sip of water before I jump into this one.
Very sweet again
So this one to me is hotter
on the nose.
on the nose
I
than
didn't get any of that.
than Glass 3.
Wow.
So 2 I think was still the hottest. Glass 3 was very very little.
So this one I'm getting a lot of sweet, like number one. Yeah, and just as John's tasting it, I don't really know. I can't 100% quite.
Yeah, a lot of sweetness. Way more sweetness than I ever
Really
gave
thought.
vodka credit for.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
I don't know which one's sweeter between 1 and 4,
Yeah.
but I think
God.
so. In my opinion, so far, 1 and 4 have very, very similar sweetness levels.
Yep.
1 and 3 actually had, I think, even a little bit closer flavors to each other. And 2 at this point kind of seems like the oddball.
Yeah. 2 is the most different from the lineup itself.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about then Seagram's, which is our last one on here. This is the budget one that we put in. And there wasn't a whole bunch of information that I could really find. They're coming out of Indiana, I think, is what I ultimately decided on. They're made with American grain out of Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, like
The Midwest.
the Midwest.
Yeah.
They're five times column distilled, but they're the only ones that are using reverse osmosis water and not some kind of artisan or artesian well of some kind. They're saying it's local water, but then it's reverse osmosis filtered, which means I would just assume that it's just some kind of city water or something that they're pushing out.
Yeah, I mean, and not to be nitpicky, but it's a budget product, right? I mean,
Yeah. Okay. So when we're talking about price, we're talking about Seagram's being what, 11 or $12?
yeah, let's just call it 12.
12.
For 1,000 milliliter.
Yeah. And then Grey Goose, I think, is on the other extreme where it was what, like 30 something?
Yeah, we should have wrote this down.
Yeah, we should have.
So, Grey Goose, I want to say is like,
36?
yeah, like between 35 and 40. Like
Okay.
upper mid 30s probably. on average.
Tito's was in the high 20s for a liter, right? Or low 20s? 22?
Yeah, I think 22.
Okay.
That sounds pretty close.
And Absolute.
Absolute, I think, is very on par with Tito's price-wise.
So, yeah, they're almost the same.
Pending sales, promotions, things like that. I think you're talking about price per ounce being very similar between those two.
Okay. So that's where we're going on. On paper, Absolute and Grey Goose are the same. Tito's is the most different. And Seagram's we have the least information about.
Yeah, Seagram's is a lot more
Which makes sense because
mysterious.
they're
It's
it's $12 a bottle. Like
Yeah,
there's no one seeking it out.
it's an upper well product. It's
Absolutely.
far beyond. It's actually pretty good for
Yeah.
what it is. We'll see how it does in this taste test, but it's far beyond a lot of well products. But everything else here being a premium spirit. So let's
or at least a call spirit.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't even know how they break that shit up anymore. Like where it's like they're like this is premium and that's supposed to be the apex, and then they're like, oh no, that's actually 2 levels below what the top is.
And then
like,
this
what?
is ultra premium.
Yeah, this is super duper extra premium.
Okay. I just wanted to run through these side by side real quick.
Okay, yeah. So while you're doing that, just to recap, number 1 had probably the most unique nose on it. It had the best legs, so probably the highest oil content. And it packed a big sweetness punch to it. Number 2 was kind of the black sheep for all of them. It has probably the hottest nose in my opinion. It's got that one was kind of the most medicinal tasting, I guess, is what you would say. Had kind of a strange flavor to it. I couldn't really put my finger on it. Number 3, to me, had a very similar taste profile to number 1, but I don't think it was quite as sweet. And the nose, in my opinion, was not super hot, but Nick said it was very hot. And then conversely, number 4, the nose, Nick said was not super hot. I thought it was actually like pretty hot, but it had the big sweet punch that glass number 1 did. So kind of across the board, nothing is necessarily like, I mean, being as subjective as you can be with this.
Nothing stands out like 100% over the other ones.
And I guess that's kind of the point, right? Is like, if you were tasting these for quality, I would guess that the lowest quality or the least expensive one, not even knowing what they were, would be glass number 2.
I would say, so just in my ranking, I just ran back through all of them real quick, tried to smell them all back to back and taste them all back to back. And so I'll wait till John gets done writing down his.
I'm gonna do one
as the best.
As the best. I'm torn between 3 and 4. I think
the middle, right?
Yeah, and I think
2 we decided was
2
the
I think
worst.
is my 4th place, but for the
3 and the 4 are negligible.
They're very tough for me.
You wrote down the same thing I just wrote down. So we both ranked these in 1, 4, 3, and 2.
Oh. Yeah, so my 3 and 4...
But the 3 and 4 are kind of a toss-up because they're very similar-ish.
So the reason why I put 4 slightly above 3...
is because it was a little sweeter and it had a little less of that alcoholic bite.
It had that really pleasant... Even though the nose to me was hotter than 3, it had that really pleasant sweetness, which I will now never discount because I didn't even realize it existed in the flavor. It has that really nice sweetness to it. And to be honest with you, it was almost as smooth as whatever number 3 was. It was very, very much
the same.
On par with it.
Let's fucking check them out. I want to know this really bad. Okay, so number 2.
So we have to remove the tape from the bottom. So number 2, our last pick. Let's see what it is.
What do you think it was?
I kind of already guessed. I like Seagram's, but I kind of just assumed it was the cheapest, shittiest one.
So the worst one is Absolute.
Wow.
In our rankings.
So that is insane to me because with the last time we did this taste test, obviously there were so many factors. I was probably eating like fried pickles and some bullshit.
You ranked Absolute pretty high.
I ranked Absolute as, I'm pretty sure, my favorite one.
Oh, really?
Now, granted, it was a slightly different Absolute that we used in our test last time. It was when the Elix came out. It was the
Elix, yeah.
But...
which was like their premium product.
Yeah, but it's like... It's got to be very similar.
True.
But anyway, that was like my favorite one last time.
Okay, so number 3... Oh, wow, this changed from last time. So number 3 was Seagram's.
Oh, okay. So that means whatever number 4 is very on par with Seagram's, which is our budget pick. It's the best bang for your buck that we've found, at least.
Which is Tito's.
Which one? Number 4 is Tito's?
Tito's, yeah. This was not what I thought it was going to turn out to be looking like.
No.
This is fucking boggles my brain. No way we picked Goose as number 1.
Is that really number 1?
Okay, because the whole time we were talking about this,
that makes me hate myself,
I
actually.
know, me too.
Because I've been talking so much shit on Goose for like the last year, because last time we did that test, it was not
number
good.
one. It was the worst one.
It was my least favorite one, or at least second to last.
We got the shitty palette now.
Wow, that fucking blows my mind.
Or we grew up. Maybe they changed. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. It shouldn't surprise anyone
That it rotates
because
all the time.
Well, that it rotates, but also like just the things we've eaten today. Like these things can change, but I just mean Goose is a premium spirit from France. What do we know about France? Cognac's one of my absolute favorite spirits. Guess what? Cognac comes from France, a very specific region in France. It makes sense that these guys know what they're doing. But let's think back to the things that we said about number one. It had the most smooth, pleasant sweetness to it, most drinkability just on its own, least like ethanol, just straight up. And it had the best legs, which was essentially kind of the oil content.
Yep. Which was
Now-
hilarious because I thought that would have been Tito's.
Really? See, I assumed the one with the highest oil content was going to be Absolute based on what I experienced in the last very unofficial taste test that we did.
Okay.
Because to me, it had the most oily, nice texture that I liked.
Yeah.
So this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's also nice to do a takeaway on this. And the takeaway is they're all really similar.
Yeah, they were very-
crazily similar. The only noticeably different one was actually Absolute.
So we almost, let's put this in perspective. 3 and 4. So Tito's and Seagram's
We
were
almost
almost
put
interchangeable,
Seagram's as
which
number
means
2,
Seagram's
yeah.
was almost right behind
Goose.
And the price is literally a third.
Oh, yeah.
So like, especially if you're mixing into a cocktail,
Yeah, what do you need Goose for?
don't be so snobby about it. If
Yeah.
you're going to drink it on a rock, all right, I understand.
yeah.
Brand loyalty, whatever. I'm not judging. You drink how you want to drink. I'm just saying, when you go to a bar and it's full price, there's no happy hour, there's nothing that's going on, you're not getting any sort of discount, and you order every drink that you're drinking with Goose, and it's like a $1 or $2 upcharge, what are you really doing?
Especially if you're going to put cranberry juice on it.
Well, yeah, if you're going to put anything crazy in it, you're literally
man.
not going to taste it. But even just like, say you're doing like a vodka soda, right? That's just something super popular.
It is pretty plain.
I really don't know why people drink that, to be honest.
either.
I would rather have
Although it
a
does
glass
make a
of
little
club
bit more
soda.
sense now that we have retested this
The sweetness.
we don't ever drink this shit on its own.
Right.
And it does, like Grey Goose, if I was going to guess, it has added sugar to it.
It has to.
It has to for how sweet it is.
There's no way it does not. I don't know. Like, I feel like I would much prefer to have like a glass of club soda, especially one of those nice Spindrift ones that like
yeah.
has like a hint of flavor, and drink that alongside my vodka instead of doing a vodka soda.
Yeah.
I also don't drink vodka, really.
This is true.
Not saying I'm opposed to it. It's just not.
There's
something
just a
I
lot of
usually
other
drink.
spirits with more flavor.
Yeah, there's just not as much. So even the absolute best one, the highest priced one, something like a Goose or a Belvedere or whatever these really high priced ones are, they still have much less flavor and enjoyability for me than some other spirits, like cognac. God, I could sit there and make love to cognac in glass. Like, I'm definitely not going to do that with this vodka.
Totally. All right. Well,
There you have it.
That was a fun episode.
Wow. So for those of you watching, we'll put them in order here. So number one
it's Grey Goose.
was Grey Goose.
Oh, yeah. Here, we'll do this. So we got Goose.
Put it behind, and then
it was Tito's.
Tito's was number 4, right?
Yep.
Glass number 4.
And Seagram's.
Seagram's was glass number 3.
And then Absolute.
Absolute.
At the end.
Wow, Absolute really disappointed me on this one.
Bummer.
It wasn't terrible.
Goose overly surprised me because
really did.
I remember last time tasting it, it was like medicinally.
I need to smell.
hot.
I gotta smell this one again. Wow, it's just like. Oh wow! Just do
it side
those,
by side?
Yeah, do those two again.
Sweet, round, sharp, and
Wow, like ethanol, like
ethanol.
straight up.
Yeah,
Wow, that is insane. I did not expect this to go.
that way at all. All right,
This
Well,
is
there you
fun.
have
We
it.
should do more of these.
Yeah, let's do more. Thanks for watching, guys. Check us out next week. We'll figure out something else to talk about.
We'll have something good.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.